I wasn't supposed to be sitting alone. The invitation had promised +1 seating, but Marcus canceled 3 days ago. Something about a work emergency that sounded rehearsed even over text. So here I was at my cousin Vanessa's wedding, wedged at a table near the kitchen doors, surrounded by distant relatives who'd already forgotten my name. The reception hall smelled like gardenias and expensive wine. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across white tablecloths, and somewhere, a string quartet played something elegant and forgettable. I'd worn the navy dress, the one that made me look competent rather than beautiful, and I'd stopped checking my phone after the 7th sympathy text from my mother. "Are you having fun, darling?" "No, Mom, I was counting exit routes." The chair beside me had been empty for 40 minutes. I draped my clutch across it. A territorial claim no one challenged. Around me, couples leaned into each other, laughing at private jokes. Vanessa's sorority sisters shrieked at the open bar. Children zigzagged between tables, their flower crowns slipping sideways. I pressed my thumb against the stem of my wine glass and watched condensation bead along the crystal. That's when he sat down. No warning. No polite "excuse me." He simply pulled out the chair I'd marked as forbidden territory, moved my clutch to the table with 2 careful fingers, and settled into the space like he'd reserved it weeks ago. I turned, a refusal already forming on my tongue, and stopped. He wasn't looking at me. His attention fixed somewhere past the dance floor, jaw tight, shoulders aligned with mathematical precision beneath a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my rent. Dark hair swept back from a face too controlled to be merely handsome. No smile, no acknowledgement that he'd just invaded my carefully constructed solitude. "That seat's taken," I said. "No, it isn't." His voice was quiet, almost conversational, but it carried weight, the kind that made my pulse skip before my brain caught up. He still hadn't looked at me. I should have called over a server. Should have moved tables. Instead, I found myself studying the way his hands rested on the tablecloth. Still, deliberate, like he'd trained them to never fidget. "I don't know you." I tried again. "Elena Marchetti." Finally, he turned. His eyes were dark, unreadable, and when they met mine, something in my chest pulled tight. "You're the bride's cousin. Lawyer. You live on Ashford, 3rd floor, corner unit. You take your coffee black, and you walk home from the firm every Thursday because you think the routine keeps you grounded." The temperature dropped. I set down my wine glass very carefully, fighting to keep my hand steady. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who needs you to stay calm." He shifted slightly, angling his body so we looked like 2 guests having a pleasant conversation. "To anyone watching, we were strangers making polite small talk." His voice dropped lower. "In approximately 4 minutes, 2 men are going to walk through the south entrance. They're not here for the wedding." My throat closed. "I don't—" "They're here because your firm represents the Costello family." He said it like he was commenting on the weather. "You've been copying files, federal files. Someone noticed." The world tilted. I'd been so careful. Encrypted drives, late nights alone in the office, never the same pattern twice. The Costellos laundered money through half the commercial real estate in the city, and the senior partners knew, and nobody was going to do anything about it unless someone forced their hand. I'd thought I was alone in this. I'd thought I was safe. "I don't know what you're talking about," I whispered. "Yes, you do." His gaze held mine, and I saw something flicker there. Not threat, exactly. Recognition, maybe. Or calculation. "And so do they. Which means you have 2 choices right now." "I'm leaving." I started to stand. His hand moved. Not grabbing, not restraining. Just a slight shift that made me freeze. "If you walk out alone, they'll follow. If you make a scene, people die. Probably starting with your mother at table 7. Ice spread through my veins. I glanced toward Mom's table without meaning to. She was laughing at something Aunt Rita said, her pearl necklace catching the light. "What do you want?" My voice barely worked. "Sit down, smile, pretend I'm someone you're happy to see." He leaned back slightly, that manufactured ease returning. "When the song changes, we're going to walk toward the terrace. Slowly, like we need air. And then, you're going to get in my car and let me take you somewhere safe." "Why would I trust you?" "Because 4 years ago, you reported a judge for taking bribes, and he tried to have you disbarred." Something shifted in his expression. Approval, or respect, or both. "You didn't back down. You testified anyway. That's why I'm here, instead of them." The string quartet transitioned into something slower, more deliberate. He stood, offering his hand like we'd planned this, like we were dancing partners reuniting after years apart. "Your name," I said. "Tell me your name." He hesitated, the first crack in his armor. When he spoke, it was barely audible over the music. "Dante Caruso." The name landed like a gunshot in my chest. Everyone knew that name. Everyone in this city understood what it meant. The Caruso family didn't just operate in the shadows. They owned them. I stared at his outstretched hand. Through the south entrance, 2 men in dark suits appeared. They scanned the room with professional efficiency, and when one of them looked toward our table, his hand drifted toward his jacket. Dante's expression didn't change. "Elena." I took his hand. His grip was firm, steady, and terrifyingly warm as he pulled me gently to my feet. We moved toward the terrace like lovers seeking privacy, his hand settling at the small of my back, protective and possessive all at once. Behind us, I heard chairs scraping, footsteps, deliberate and quick. "Don't look back," Dante murmured. I didn't. But as we stepped through the terrace doors into the cool night air, I realized with crystalline clarity that everything I'd built, my career, my careful life, my belief that justice could exist within broken systems, had just shattered. And the man guiding me into the darkness was either my salvation or my executioner. I wasn't sure which terrified me more. The terrace was empty except for scattered cocktail tables and the distant throb of music bleeding through closed doors. String lights created small pools of amber across the flagstone, and beyond the iron railing, the city sprawled in geometric patterns of light. Dante's hand remained at my back, applying just enough pressure to keep me moving, not forcing, guiding. "Where's your car?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. "East lot, black Audi. We have 90 seconds before they check the exits." He moved like someone who'd calculated 100 variables before standing up, his stride purposeful, but unhurried. We descended the stone steps toward the parking area, passing beneath a pergola heavy with wisteria. The scent was almost narcotic in its sweetness. I could hear my heels clicking against stone, the rustle of my dress, my own breathing. Too fast, too shallow. "Why me?" I asked. "If the Costellos know I copied files, why send you? Why not just—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "Because you're more useful alive." He glanced sideways at me, and in the scattered light, his profile looked carved from something unforgiving. "And because Luca Costello is an idiot who thinks intimidation is strategy." We reached the parking lot. He guided me between rows of expensive cars until we stopped beside an Audi sedan, sleek, black, anonymous. He opened the passenger door, one hand on the frame, blocking escape routes I hadn't consciously identified yet. "Get in." I didn't move. "Tell me what's happening, all of it." Behind us, the terrace doors opened, voices, male, agitated, searching. Dante's jaw tightened. "In the car. Now." Something in his tone made me comply. I slid into the passenger seat, and he closed the door with a controlled click before circling to the driver's side. The engine purred to life. We pulled out smoothly, no screeching tires, No dramatic acceleration, just a car leaving a wedding reception. I twisted to look back. Through the rear window, I saw the two men emerge into the parking lot, phones pressed to their ears. "They're calling it in," I said. "I know." Dante merged onto the main road, checking mirrors with mechanical precision. "They'll track the car within 10 minutes. We'll switch vehicles before then." My hands were shaking. I pressed them together in my lap, fingers laced tight. "I need you to explain what the hell is happening, right now." He was silent for feet, 3 blocks. Outside, the city transitioned from manicured wedding venues to commercial strips, dry cleaners, late-night pharmacies, closed storefronts with accordion gates. Then he spoke. "You've been copying files from Hartman and Associates for 6 weeks. Case documents, financial records, communications between the firm and Costello family interests. You encrypted them, stored them on an external drive, and you were planning to deliver them to the FBI." My stomach dropped. "How do you—" "Because I've been watching you do it." He said it without inflection, like he was describing weather patterns. "The Costellos have a source inside your firm. They've known since week 2. They were waiting to see who you'd contact, what your play was." "Then why didn't they stop me?" "Because stopping you would have been inefficient." He turned onto a side street, killing the headlights as we rolled into an industrial area. Warehouses loomed on either side, their loading docks shuttered and dark. "They wanted to identify your network, see who else was involved. But tonight, someone got impatient." He parked behind a warehouse, beneath a broken streetlight. Killed the engine. In the sudden silence, I could hear my own heartbeat. Luca Costello ordered a retrieval. Dante turned to face me, and in the darkness of the car, his features were all shadow and sharp angles. "You, the files, both disappear. Quietly. And you're telling me this because—" My voice cracked on the last word. "Because I'm not working for the Costellos." The statement hung between us like a detonation waiting to happen. I pressed back against the passenger door, creating distance. "Then who are you working for?" "Myself." He reached into his jacket, I flinched, and produced a phone, placed it on the console between us. "My family has complicated relationships with the other organizations. The Costellos have been expanding into our territory, starting wars they can't finish. I need leverage." Understanding crashed over me. "The files. You've documented 2 years of money laundering, witness intimidation, and judicial corruption. That's not evidence. That's a detonator." He tapped the phone once. "Help me bring down the Costellos, and I'll make sure you survive this." I laughed. A sharp, slightly hysterical sound. "You want me to trust you? You just admitted you've been stalking me for weeks." "I've been protecting you." His tone didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. 3 weeks ago, someone tried to run you off the road on Marshall Avenue. You thought it was an accident. It wasn't. Last week, your apartment door was unlocked when you came home. You checked the windows, the locks, convinced yourself you'd forgotten. You hadn't. My skin went cold. "You're saying—" "I'm saying you've been a target for a month, and you're still breathing because I've been keeping you that way." He gestured toward the phone. "That contains names. People I can protect. People I can't. Your mother's on the can't list. So is your sister in Portland, unless you let me help you." I stared at the phone like it might explode. "This isn't help. This is extortion." "Yes." He didn't apologize, didn't soften it. "But it's also the only option that doesn't end with you in the Hudson." Outside, a truck rumbled past on the distant highway. A dog barked somewhere in the industrial sprawl. Normal sounds. The world continuing while mine splintered apart. "What happens if I say no?" I asked. "I take you to a safe house. You stay there until the Costellos are handled. Then you disappear. New city, new name, new life." He paused. "Without your family?" without everything you've built. And if I say yes? You finish what you started. We use your evidence to dismantle their operation, and when it's over, you get your life back. His eyes held mine. All of it. Plus the satisfaction of watching them burn. I thought about the files hidden in my apartment. About Judge Morrison, who'd tried to destroy me for telling the truth. About all the times I'd swallowed my anger, played by rules designed to protect the corrupt. About my mother at that wedding table laughing, unaware that her daughter had just stepped off a cliff. I need guarantees, I said. You won't get them. Then why should I trust you? Because 4 years ago, you testified against a judge, even though you knew it would cost you everything. You did it anyway. He leaned forward slightly, and I caught the scent of expensive cologne and something darker underneath. Gunpowder, maybe, or just danger made tangible. That's who you are, Elena. Someone who finishes what she starts, even when it's terrifying. He was using my own history against me. Worse, he was right. I picked up the phone. It was heavier than it should have been, like it carried the weight of every choice that led here. We do this my way, I said. I'm not your asset. I'm a partner. Equal stakes. Equal say. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or the ghost of respect. Agreed. And my family stays safe. Non-negotiable. Already handled. I searched his expression for lies, for cracks in the armor. Found only that same controlled stillness. One more thing, I said. You hurt me, or you betray me, and I'll make sure every organization in this city knows you're the reason the Costellos fell. You'll be a target for the rest of your life. For the first time, Dante Caruso smiled. It was a small thing, barely there, but it transformed his face from severe to something almost human. Now we understand each other. He started the car. We pulled back onto empty streets, heading deeper into the city, away from weddings and normal life and everything I used to be. I gripped the phone and wondered if I'd just made a deal with the devil or found the only ally I'd ever really have. Probably both. The safe house wasn't what I expected. I'd imagined something sterile. Empty rooms, bare bulbs, the hollow echo of abandonment. Instead, Dante led me into a brownstone in a quiet neighborhood where trees lined the sidewalks and porch lights glowed like small moons. Inside, hardwood floors gleamed beneath Persian rugs, a kitchen with copper pots hanging above an island. Bookshelves filled with actual books, their spines cracked from reading. "This is yours?" I asked, setting my clutch on the entryway table. "No, it belongs to someone who owes me." He locked the door, 3 separate deadbolts, I noticed, and moved through the space with practiced familiarity. "You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow, we strategize." I followed him into the living room. A chess set sat on a side table, mid-game, pieces frozen in complex warfare. I touched the black queen without thinking. "Don't." His voice came from behind me, closer than expected. "That game's been running for 3 months. Whoever set it up will know if it's disturbed." I withdrew my hand. "Who are you playing against?" "Someone patient." He moved past me toward the kitchen. "There's food in the refrigerator, clothes upstairs, second bedroom. Everything you need for a few days." "You've done this before." It wasn't a question. He opened a cabinet, produced 2 glasses, filled them with water from a filter. Handed one to me. "Protecting people?" "Yes." "Kidnapping them from weddings?" "Only the interesting ones." He said it deadpan, and for a moment I couldn't tell if he was joking. Then I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Barely there, but present. "You walked out with me, Elena. That wasn't kidnapping." "You told me people would die." "I told you the truth." He drank half his water, studying me over the rim of the glass. "Would you have preferred I lied?" I sank onto the sofa, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried me through the past hour drained away, leaving something raw behind. My hands were still shaking. I pressed them against my thighs, willing them to stop. Dante noticed. He always noticed. He disappeared into another room and returned with a blanket. Soft, gray cashmere. Draped it across my shoulders without asking permission. "Thank you," I managed. He sat in the chair across from me, maintaining distance. "Tell me about the files. What format? Where you stored them? Who else knows?" "I'm not telling you anything until I understand what I'm part of." I pulled the blanket tighter. "You said your family has complicated relationships with the Costellos. What does that mean?" "It means we've been at war for 2 years, quietly." He leaned back, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "They want what we have. Territory, influence, legitimacy. My father spent 30 years building something that operates in daylight as much as shadow. The Costellos are burning that down." "Why you?" I asked. "Why not your father?" "Because my father's dead." He said it without emotion, but something shifted in his posture, a tightening across his shoulders, a fractional hardening of his jaw. 6 months ago, heart attack, officially. Realistically, stress, war, betrayal. He paused, watching everything he built start to crumble. I thought about my own father, gone 5 years now, how grief settled into bones and stayed there, a permanent resident. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be." He made choices. Dante's gaze drifted toward the window where streetlight filtered through gauze curtains. "Now I'm making different ones." "Using me?" "Using your evidence." His attention snapped back to me. "There's a difference." "Is there?" I set down the water glass. "You've been watching me, following me. You knew where I lived, where I worked, how I took my coffee. That's not protection, Dante. That's surveillance." "Yes." He didn't flinch from the accusation. "You became a priority when you started copying files from a firm that protects one of the most violent organizations in the city. That made you valuable, vulnerable. I needed to know if you were an asset or a liability. And you're both." He stood, moved to the window, checked the street with the automatic precision of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. "Which makes you perfect?" I watched him standing there, backlit by streetlight, and tried to reconcile the contradictions, the careful control, the moments of almost softness, the way he'd draped that blanket across my shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the world. "What happened to your father?" I asked. "Really?" His shoulders tensed. For a long moment he didn't answer. When he spoke, his voice was different. Rougher, like he was dragging words from somewhere deep. "He trusted the wrong person. Someone close. Someone he considered family." Dante turned from the window. "The Costellos found that crack and drove a wedge into it until everything split apart. You're afraid the same thing will happen to you." "I know it will. Eventually." His expression was unreadable. "That's why I move first. That's why I watch. That's why I'm very, very careful about who I trust." "Then why trust me?" The question hung between us. Outside, a car passed, headlights sweeping across the room before fading. "Because you testified against Judge Morrison even though it would destroy your career." Dante moved closer, not crowding, just closing the distance. "Because you've been copying files for 6 weeks knowing that if anyone found out, you'd be killed. Because when I gave you the option to run, to disappear, you asked to be a partner instead." He stopped a few feet away. "That's not someone who can be bought, or intimidated, or manipulated." "Everyone can be manipulated," I said quietly. "Then let me rephrase." His gaze held mine, and I saw something in it I hadn't noticed before. Not calculation exactly, but a kind of exhausted honesty. You're someone worth the risk of trusting, even if it destroys me. My throat tightened. I pulled the blanket closer, needing the pressure, the weight of something real. The files are on an encrypted drive, said. Hidden in my apartment. False bottom in my desk drawer. Formatted as spreadsheets. Transaction records cross-referenced with case files. 2 years of data. He nodded slowly. Tomorrow, we retrieve them. After that, we plan how to use them without getting you killed. And you? What happens to you when this is over? I'll still be what I am. He said it matter-of-factly. This doesn't absolve me, Elena. Using corrupt evidence to bring down corrupt people doesn't make me a hero. I'm not asking you to be one. Then what are you asking? I thought about that. About this man who'd pulled me out of danger and into something darker. About the choices we make when all options are terrible. Don't make me regret trusting you, I said. I'll try. He moved toward the stairs. Second bedroom, end of the hall. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer. Will it? Make me safer? He paused on the first step. No, but it might help you sleep. Then he was gone, footsteps fading into the upper floor. I sat there wrapped in cashmere, staring at the chess game frozen in endless war, and wondered if I'd just allied myself with someone capable of saving me or simply postponing the inevitable. The Black Queen stood poised to strike, and I understood suddenly why Dante had warned me not to touch her. Some pieces, once moved, change everything. I didn't sleep. I tried. Lay in the guest bedroom under soft sheets that smelled of lavender, staring at ceiling shadows cast by streetlights. But every creak of the house settling, every distant car engine, every whisper of wind against windows snapped me back to hyper-awareness. Around 3 a.m., I gave up, wrapped myself in the blanket and padded downstairs barefoot. Dante was in the kitchen. He'd removed his jacket and tie, rolled his sleeves to his elbows. Standing at the island with a laptop open, bathed in the blue-white glow of the screen. A cup of coffee steamed beside him, untouched. He didn't look up when I entered, but his posture shifted, a slight straightening, an acknowledgement. Couldn't sleep? His voice was quiet, calibrated not to startle. No. I moved to the counter, keeping distance between us. You. I don't. Much. He tapped something on the keyboard, frowning at whatever appeared. Sleep is a vulnerability. I thought about what that meant. Spending years training yourself to stay conscious, alert, perpetually ready. That sounds exhausting. It is. He finally looked at me, and in the laptop's glow, the shadows under his eyes were pronounced. But exhaustion is better than being dead. I pulled out a stool, sat across the island from him. What are you working on? Costello family tree. Identifying weak points. He turned the laptop so I could see. The screen displayed a complex web of names, photographs, connecting lines in red and blue and green. These are the people who matter. These, he indicated a cluster in green, are expendable. And these? Red lines, thick and bold, are the ones who'll come for you. I studied the faces, men in expensive suits, a few women, someone's teenage son, all of them connected to violence I'd only read about in case files. How do you know all this? I asked. Because I grew up in this world? He pulled the laptop back, resumed scrolling. You learn to map power structures the way other people learn to read. Who owes what? Who's afraid of whom? Where the pressure points are. And me? Where do I fit in your map? His fingers stilled on the keyboard. You're a catalyst. The thing that makes the whole structure unstable. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He closed the laptop, met my eyes. You want me to tell you you're safe? I can't. You want me to promise this ends well? I won't lie. What I can tell you is that you have information that could dismantle an organization, and that makes you the most dangerous person in this city right now. I don't feel dangerous. You should. He stood, moved to the coffee maker, poured a second cup, handed it to me without asking if I wanted it. The Costellos have killed for less than what you know. Judges, witnesses, a city councilman 2 years ago. They made it look like a suicide. He left a wife and 3 kids. I wrapped my hands around the mug, absorbing warmth. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what we're dealing with. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. This isn't a legal case you can win with evidence and procedure. These people operate outside the system. They are the system in places where it matters. Then what's the point? If they're untouchable? They're not untouchable. They're just insulated. He gestured toward the closed laptop. But insulation only works if the structure underneath is solid. You've documented cracks, bribes, money trails, names. That's how you bring down an empire, not by attacking the top, but by eroding the foundation until it can't hold weight anymore. I thought about the files hidden in my desk drawer, transaction records, email chains, photographs I'd taken of documents when no one was watching. 2 years of my life spent collecting proof that powerful people were corrupt. When do we get them? I asked. The files. Tomorrow night, after dark. He checked his watch. An automatic gesture, muscle memory. We'll go in quiet. 10 minutes, maximum. Then we disappear. What if they're already there, waiting? They won't be. They think you're running. Scared. His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. They don't know you like I do. The words landed differently than he probably intended. Intimate. Weighted. I looked away, focusing on my coffee. How do you know me? I asked. Really? 6 weeks of watching someone doesn't tell you who they are. No, he agreed. But it tells you how they move through the world. You walk home every Thursday because you need the routine. The structure keeps you grounded when everything else feels chaotic. You take your coffee black because adding anything feels like weakness. You stay late at the office not because you have to, but because going home to an empty apartment reminds you that you've chosen this life, chosen isolation, chosen a fight that cost you everything. I set down the mug carefully. That's not knowing me. That's profiling. What's the difference? The difference is I'm not a target you've studied. I'm a person. My voice came out sharper than intended. You don't get to reduce me to patterns and behaviors. He was quiet for a moment, then, you're right. I apologize. The apology surprised me. I'd expected defensiveness, justification, not capitulation. Why did you really save me tonight? I asked. And don't tell me it's about leverage. There's something else. He stared into his coffee like it held answers. When he spoke, his voice was different, lower, stripped of the controlled precision. Because I'm tired of watching good people get destroyed for trying to do the right thing. He looked up. My father was a criminal. I don't pretend otherwise. But he also believed in codes, rules. There were lines you didn't cross. The Costellos have no lines. They'll hurt anyone, destroy anything, as long as it serves them. He paused. When I realized what you were doing, I saw someone who still believed the system could work, who still thought justice meant something. And I couldn't let them take that. Take you. The confession hung between us, raw and unexpected. You barely know me, I said softly. I know enough. His gaze held mine. I know you're the kind of person who testifies even when it costs everything, who steals files from your own employer because you can't stomach watching corruption win. That's rare, valuable. He looked away. Worth protecting. Outside, a garbage truck rumbled past. Morning approaching, the city beginning its wake-up ritual. But inside this kitchen, time felt suspended. I'm scared, I admitted. I've been scared for weeks. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. I'm also angry. Better. He almost smiled. Anger keeps you moving. I stood, carried my mug to the sink, rinsed it out, needing the mundane action to ground me. When I turned, Dante was closer, not crowding, just present. What happens after we get the files? I asked. After we use them, what happens to me? You get to choose. He said it simply, like it was that easy. Stay here, rebuild, or start over somewhere new. But you get to choose, Elena. Not the Costellos. Not me. You. And you. What do you choose? I choose to finish what my father started. His expression hardened again, the softness receding. I choose to make sure the people who destroyed him don't get to keep building on his bones. I nodded slowly. Understood, maybe for the first time, that we were both fighting ghosts. Both trying to honor something that had been taken from us. I should try to sleep, I said. We have a long day. Tomorrow. Elena. He stopped me before I reached the doorway. About watching you. Following you. I need you to understand. I know. And I did. Somehow. You did what you thought necessary. I can't say I would have done differently. Something in his expression shifted. Relief. Maybe. Or gratitude. Thank you. I climbed the stairs back to the guest room, wrapped myself in blankets that smelled like safety, and this time, I slept. Downstairs, I knew Dante was still awake, still planning, still mapping out ways to keep me alive. And for now, in this moment, that was enough. We left for my apartment at 11 p.m., when the city had settled into its nocturnal rhythm. Bars still open, restaurants closing, streets occupied by people trying to forget tomorrow. Dante drove a different car. Gray sedan, entirely forgettable. We merged into traffic smoothly, just another vehicle in the flow. Talk me through the layout, he said. Your apartment. Third floor, corner unit, windows face east and south, fire escape on the east side. I'd lived there 3 years, knew every floorboard creak, every loose tile. Door opens into the living room, kitchen to the left, bedroom and bathroom down a short hall. Desk is in the bedroom, against the north wall. Locks? Standard deadbolt. No security system, the building's old, most units don't have them. Good. Less to disable. He turned onto Ashford, killed the headlights 2 blocks from my building. We coasted to a stop in the shadow between streetlights. We go in quiet. You retrieve the drive. I watch the entrances. 6 minutes, maximum. My heart hammered against my ribs. What if someone's inside? Then we don't go in. He pulled something from his jacket. A gun, matte black, efficient looking. Chambered around with practiced ease. But they won't be. They're watching the exits. Not sitting in your apartment. How do you know? Because that's what I would do. He checked the clip, satisfied, tucked the weapon away. Ready? No. Yes. We exited the car. The night air was cool, carrying scents of exhaust and distant rain. My building loomed ahead, red brick, iron fire escapes, windows dark except for scattered squares of light where insomniacs watched television or worked late. Dante moved beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched, not protective exactly, more like he was establishing a perimeter that included both of us. We entered through the side door. I used my key, the lock clicking softly. Inside, the hallway smelled like old carpet and someone's cooking, garlic, maybe, or curry. Stairs, Dante said quietly. Elevators are too exposed. We climbed. My heels clicked against concrete until I stopped, slipped them off, carried them. Dante approved with a slight nod. 3rd floor. My hallway stretched ahead, institutional lighting casting everything in sickly yellow. Door 3C, mine, looked undisturbed. No scratches around the lock. No indication anyone had tried to force entry. I unlocked it. Dante went in first, gun drawn, moving through rooms with silent efficiency. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, closets. Clear, he said, holstering the weapon. I exhaled. Hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. My apartment looked exactly as I'd left it that morning. Coffee mug in the sink, files stacked on the dining table, jacket thrown across the back of a chair. Normal, mundane, like the past 12 hours hadn't happened. The desk, Dante said. I moved to the bedroom, knelt beside the antique desk I'd bought at an estate sale, ran my fingers along the bottom drawer until I found the seam, pressed twice in the right spot. The false bottom popped up with a soft click. The drive was there. Small, black, containing enough information to dismantle an empire. I closed my hand around it. Got it. Good, let's... He stopped mid-sentence, tensed, listening. What? I whispered. Footsteps. Hallway. 2 people. He was already moving, pulling me away from the window. They're here. My stomach dropped. How? Doesn't matter. Bedroom, now. We retreated into the bedroom. Dante positioned himself beside the door, gun drawn again. I pressed against the wall. Drive clutched so tight my knuckles went white. In the hallway, voices. Low, professional. Discussing entrances, exits, strategies. They're not trying to be quiet, Dante murmured. They want you to know they're here. Why? Because they think you're alone, think you're terrified. They want you to run. His jaw tightened. When you do, they take you somewhere private and ask questions. What do we do? He was silent for 3 seconds, calculating, assessing. Fire escape. We climb down, circle back to the car. They'll see us. Not if we move fast. He glanced at me, and something in his expression softened fractionally. Trust me. I nodded. Handed him my heels. They'd only slow me down. Dante moved to the window, eased it open. The old frame protested, wood scraping against wood. In the hallway, the voices stopped. Go, Dante said. I climbed through onto the fire escape, metal cold against my bare feet. Dante followed, pulling the window closed behind us. We descended, not running, controlled, each step deliberate despite the screaming urgency in my skull. Above us, my apartment window lit up. Shadows moved inside. Don't look, Dante said. Keep moving. 2nd floor. 1st floor. We dropped into the alley, concrete rough beneath my feet. Dante took my hand, not gentle, functional, and pulled me toward the street. Behind us, someone shouted, "Run!" We ran, not panicked. Dante's grip kept me focused, his pace steady despite the speed. We cut through alleys between buildings, zigging where someone would expect zagging. My lungs burned. My feet stung from concrete and broken glass. But we didn't stop. 4 blocks. 5. Finally, Dante pulled us into a recessed doorway, both of us pressed into shadow. His chest rose and fell against my back, breath hot against my neck. He wasn't even breathing hard. Listen, he whispered. I strained to hear over my own gasping. Sirens in the distance. Traffic. Nothing immediate. I think we lost them, I managed. For now. He stayed pressed against me for another moment. Warmth, solid presence, the steady beat of his heart against my spine. Then he released me, stepped back, gave me space. Can you walk? I looked down. My feet were bleeding. Not badly, but enough. I'll manage. He shrugged out of his jacket, knelt, tore strips from the lining, wrapped my feet with careful efficiency, his touch impersonal despite the intimacy. That'll hold until we get to the car, he said. Thank you. He stood. held my gaze. You did well. No panic. No hesitation. I was terrified. Yes, but you moved anyway. That's the difference between surviving and dying. He glanced down the alley. Car's 3 blocks east. Think you can make it? I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. He said it seriously, like it was important I understand. You could have run screaming, could have frozen, could have done 100 things that would have gotten us killed. But you chose to move, to trust. That's not nothing, Elena. I tucked the drive into my bra, safest place I could think of. Let's go. We walked. Slower now, cautious. Dante checked every corner, every shadow. His hand rested near his jacket where the gun waited. We reached the car without incident. Inside, engine running, doors locked, I finally let myself feel the fear that had been pushing at the edges. They were waiting for me, I said. In my own apartment. Yes. They would have... I couldn't finish. Yes. He pulled onto the street, blending into late-night traffic. But they didn't. You're here. Safe. For how long? As long as I can keep you that way. He glanced at me, and in the dashboard light, his profile looked carved from something ancient and unbreakable. I promise you, Elena, they won't touch you while I'm breathing. The words should have sounded like empty reassurance. Instead, they landed like an oath. I believed him. We drove in silence toward the safe house, and I tried not to think about what almost happened. Tried not to imagine those hands on me, those questions, that private place where no one would hear screaming. Instead, I thought about Dante's hand in mine, pulling me forward. His body pressed against mine in the doorway, shielding me from sight. The careful way he'd wrapped my feet like they mattered. Small mercies, small moments of humanity from someone who'd probably done terrible things. But tonight, he'd saved me. And that had to count for something. Back at the safe house, Dante insisted on treating my feet properly. Sit, he said, gesturing to the couch. I can do it myself. I'm sure you can. Sit anyway. I sat. He disappeared into the bathroom and returned with a first aid kit. Professional grade, not the drugstore variety. Knelt in front of me and began unwrapping the makeshift bandages. This will sting, he said, producing antiseptic. It did. I hissed through my teeth as he cleaned the cuts, his touch methodical, but not rough. He worked in silence, completely focused, like there was nothing more important in the world than my torn feet. You do this often? I asked. Play medic. Often enough. He applied ointment, began wrapping proper bandages. You learn basic field medicine when you grow up in my world. Hospitals ask questions. Have you been shot? Twice. Stabbed once. Broke 3 ribs falling off a roof when I was 19. That one was stupid. He secured the bandage on my left foot, moved to the right. The shooting hurt less than you'd think. Adrenaline does strange things to pain. You talk about violence like it's weather. In my life, it is. He finished the second foot, sat back on his heels. How do they feel? Better. Thank you. He started to stand. I caught his wrist. An impulse, not calculated. Wait. He froze, looked at my hand on his wrist, then at me. What is it? Tell me something true. The request surprised even me. Not tactical, not strategic, just true. He was silent for so long I thought he'd refuse. Then, I'm tired. He said it quietly, like admitting weakness. I'm 34 years old and I've spent my entire life managing violence, preventing it, executing it when necessary, building walls between myself and anything that could be used against me. And He stopped, started again. When I watched you at that wedding, sitting alone, pretending you were fine, I recognized something. Someone who'd chosen necessary isolation over connection. Someone who'd let the fight consume everything else. His hand turned under mine, palm up, an offering or a question. I didn't want to see that. He continued. Didn't want to see myself in you. But I did. And then those men showed up, and I realized I couldn't let them take you. Not because of leverage or strategy, because I couldn't watch another person get destroyed for trying to do something right. My throat tightened. That's more truth than I expected. You asked. His thumb brushed the inside of my wrist, so light I might have imagined it. I'm not good at half measures. I thought about him wrapping my feet, about his body pressed against mine in that doorway, about the controlled violence in his movements and the unexpected gentleness in his touch. Neither am I said. Something shifted in the air between us. Not resolution, exactly. Recognition, maybe. Two people who'd armored themselves against connection, suddenly aware of the cracks. He stood, didn't pull away from my grip, just straightened until our hands separated naturally. You should rest, he said. Tomorrow, we plan how to deploy the files. Dante. I stopped him before he could retreat. Thank you. For tonight. For. I gestured vaguely, encompassing everything. This. Don't thank me yet. His expression was unreadable. We're not done. Not even close. He left me there on the couch, first aid kit abandoned on the coffee table, and climbed the stairs to whatever room he occupied. I heard a door close. Water running. The sounds of someone trying to wash away a night's worth of danger. I sat in the silence, drive still tucked against my ribs, feet throbbing despite the painkillers he'd given me. Outside, the city hummed its endless song. I thought about what he'd said. I recognized something, because I'd recognized it too. That bone-deep exhaustion, that sense of fighting alone against systems designed to break you. The isolation that felt like both shield and prison. Upstairs, the water stopped. Footsteps. A door opening and closing again. I wondered if he was lying awake the way I would be. If he was replaying tonight's near miss. If he was thinking about that moment in the doorway when his heart beat against my spine and the world narrowed to just breath and survival. The chess game still sat on the side table, pieces frozen in eternal strategy. I stood, limped over to it, studied the board. Black was winning, or would be, in 3 moves, if whoever played white didn't see the trap. I reached for the white knight, moved it to block the obvious attack, then immediately regretted it. Dante had warned me not to disturb the game, but my hands were shaking, adrenaline crash finally hitting, and I needed to do something with them. Upstairs, a door opened, footsteps on the stairs. Dante appeared in the doorway, wearing different clothes, dark jeans, a t-shirt that revealed the lean muscle underneath the suit facade. His hair was damp. He saw the moved piece immediately. Stopped. Stared at the board. I told you not to touch that, he said quietly. I know. I'm sorry, I gestured helplessly. I needed something to focus on that wasn't tonight. He moved closer, studied the board. His expression shifted. Surprise, then something like appreciation. That was the right move, he said. The only move that doesn't lose in 3. You're playing white? Yes. Then you're welcome. He almost smiled. You play? My father taught me, before he died. I touched the knight I'd moved. He said chess was about seeing 3 steps ahead, anticipating consequences. Smart man. He was. I withdrew my hand. I'm sorry I moved it. I'll put it back. No. Dante reached past me, studied Black's position, moved a piece of his own. Leave it. The game's more interesting now. We stood there, both of us staring at a board game like it held answers to questions we couldn't articulate. I should sleep, I said finally. Tomorrow. Tomorrow? We prepare. He looked at me, and something in his expression was different. Softer. But tonight, you survived. That's enough. I nodded, started toward the stairs. Elena. I turned. I meant what I said. They won't touch you while I'm breathing. His gaze held mine. That's not strategy. That's a promise. Okay, I managed. Climb the stairs on bandaged feet, feeling his eyes on me until I disappeared around the corner. In the guest room, I finally removed the drive from my bra, held it up to the light. 2 years of work, 2 years of risk, all contained in this small piece of plastic and circuit board. Tomorrow, we'd figure out how to use it. Tonight, I'd sleep, knowing someone was watching the doors. Someone who'd wrapped my feet and moved chess pieces and made promises he seemed determined to keep. Someone dangerous who'd become, against all odds, the safest person I knew. Morning came with rain, the kind that turned the city gray and made everything feel muted, suspended. I woke to the sound of it against windows and the smell of coffee drifting from downstairs. Dante was at the kitchen table, laptop open, drive connected. He'd been working for hours, I realized. Probably never slept at all. Good morning, I said, voice rough from sleep. He glanced up. Morning, there's coffee. Painkillers next to the pot if your feet hurt. I poured coffee, swallowed pills, joined him at the table. What have you found? Everything you promised and more. He turned the laptop. Transaction records dating back 26 months, 12 judges on the Costello payroll, 16 police officers, 3 city councilmen, plus detailed accounts of money moving through shell corporations, real estate, restaurants, construction companies. I stared at the screen. Seeing it all compiled like this, systematic and damning, made my chest tight. That's enough to bring down everyone. Yes. He closed a window, opened another. Which is why we need to be strategic about deployment, release it all at once, and they'll find ways to muddy the water. Claim fabrication, bury it in legal challenges. Then what do? We choose one target, one person whose fall will terrify the others. He pulled up a file, Judge Marcus Whitmore, 63, distinguished gray hair, a face I recognized from courthouse hallways. He's been taking Costello money for 3 years. He's also the linchpin in their operation. He signs their search warrant dismissals. He seals their court records. He's protected them from prosecution more times than you can count. If he falls, the entire structure becomes vulnerable. Other judges get scared. Cops start cutting deals. The Costellos lose their shield. Dante closed the file. We leak evidence of Whitmore's corruption to the FBI. Not all of it. Just enough to trigger an investigation. Then we wait. How long? Could be days, could be weeks. He met my eyes. You need to be patient. Patient while they're hunting me? Patient while you're protected. His tone sharpened slightly. I know it's not ideal, but rushing this gets people killed. I stood, moved to the window. Rain streaked the glass, distorting the view. What about my life? My job? I can't just hide here indefinitely. No. You can't. He was quiet for a moment. We need to make you disappear. Officially. Let them think they won. That you ran. That you're too scared to come back. And then, when the investigation starts, when Whitmore starts panicking, we bring you back. Publicly. Visibly. As the person who provided evidence. He joined me at the window. It makes you untouchable. A witness under federal protection. Someone they can't kill without triggering a full-scale war with law enforcement. It was smart. Ruthlessly logical. And it meant giving up everything temporarily. I don't have a choice, do I? I asked. There's always a choice. He echoed his words from last night. But the alternatives are worse. My phone buzzed. I'd been ignoring it since the wedding. Dozens of missed calls from Mom, from Vanessa, from colleagues wondering where I was. I picked it up now, saw a new message. From Marcus, my ex. Elena, people are asking about you. Your mom is worried. Where are you? I showed it to Dante. He read it, expression darkening. Don't respond, he said. Anyone you contact becomes a vulnerability. He's just concerned. He's also a way for them to track you. They could be monitoring his phone, your mother's, anyone you have regular contact with. He took my phone gently from my hand. I know it's hard, but silence is survival right now. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was being paranoid, but I'd seen those men in my apartment. I'd felt the terror of being hunted. Okay, I said quietly. He turned my phone off completely, removed the SIM card, stored both pieces in separate drawers. When this is over, you can explain, apologize, rebuild. But right now, you're a ghost. The finality of it settled over me like weight. No job, no family contact, no normal life. Just this, hiding in a stranger's safe house, trusting a man who trafficked in violence, waiting for the courage of corrupt judges to crumble. I need air, I said. I can't. I need to move. The backyard, Dante said. It's private, walled. No one can see in. I went outside despite the rain. Let it soak through my borrowed clothes, plastering hair to my skull. The yard was small, but well-maintained. Flowers I couldn't name, a stone bench, high brick walls covered in ivy. I stood in the rain and tried not to feel like my life was dissolving. Behind me, the door opened. Dante appeared with an umbrella. Completely useless, given I was already soaked. You'll catch pneumonia, he said. I don't care. Yes, you do. He came closer, held the umbrella over both of us even though it was too late. You're angry. I'm fucking furious. The words exploded out. I did everything right. I collected evidence legally. I was going to take it to the FBI through proper channels. And now I'm the one hiding while they get to keep living their lives like they didn't try to kill me. I know. Do you? Do you actually understand what it's like to play by the rules, only to discover the rules were designed to protect people like them? To realize that justice is a fantasy and violence is the only language anyone understands. Yes. He said it so quietly I almost didn't hear over the rain. I understand exactly what that feels like. It's why I am what I am. I looked at him, really looked, saw past the control and the careful planning to something underneath. Rage, maybe, or grief shaped into purpose. I'm sorry, I said. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. He lowered the umbrella. Let the rain hit him too. Be angry. Stay angry. It'll keep you sharp when we need it most. We stood there in the rain like idiots, water streaming down our faces, and something about the absurdity made me laugh, sharp, slightly hysterical. What? Dante asked. This. Us. Standing in the rain having philosophical discussions about corruption and violence. I wiped water from my eyes. 2 days ago, I was at a wedding. Alone, but normal. Now you're someone who chose to fight instead of run. He pushed wet hair back from his forehead. That's not nothing, Elena. It doesn't feel like enough. It never does. He turned toward the house. Come inside, get dry. Tomorrow, we start phase 2. What's phase 2? Making you disappear so effectively that when you come back, everyone notices. I followed him inside, leaving wet footprints on hardwood. In the bathroom, I stripped off soaked clothes, wrapped myself in a towel, stared at my reflection. My eyes looked different. Harder. Like something fundamental had shifted. Maybe Dante was right. Maybe anger was what kept you moving when everything else said to give up. I dried off, dressed in borrowed clothes, went back downstairs. Dante had changed too. Was back at the laptop, already working on whatever came next. He looked up when I entered. Better? Drier. I sat across from him. Show me the plan. All of it. I want to understand every step. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Turned the laptop so we could both see. For the next 3 hours he walked me through it. How to disappear. How to feed information to the FBI through cutouts and intermediaries. How to time the revelation for maximum impact. It was intricate, dangerous, and it might actually work. When do we start? I asked. Now. He pulled up a new window. First, we create your digital ghost, bank activity in another state, social media updates that suggest you're far from here, make them believe you ran. And while they're convinced I'm gone, we build the case that destroys them. He met my eyes. Together. The word landed differently than expected. Not just strategy, partnership, trust. Together. I agreed. Outside, the rain continued its steady percussion. Inside, we bent over a laptop and began dismantling an empire, piece by careful piece. And for the first time since that wedding, I felt something other than fear. I felt dangerous. 3 weeks passed in careful choreography. We released information to the FBI in measured doses, enough to intrigue, not enough to reveal the scope. Judge Whitmore's financial records. Testimony from a cop who'd taken Costello money and wanted out. Surveillance footage of cash exchanges in parking garages. The investigation started quietly, then not so quietly. Dante and I fell into a rhythm. Days spent analyzing files, nights playing chess and talking about everything except what we were doing. He told me about growing up in his father's shadow, learning to separate business from morality. I told him about law school, about believing systems could be fixed from inside. We never touched. Never crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed. But the air between us stayed charged, aware. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon, everything fractured. Dante's phone rang while we were reviewing the next set of documents. He glanced at the screen, frowned, answered. What is it? He listened. His expression went completely still. When? How many? I understand. He ended the call, sat motionless for 10 seconds. Dante? They took my cousin. His voice was flat, emptied of emotion. Marco, he's 16. They took him from school 2 hours ago. My stomach dropped. The Costellos? Yes, they're demanding the drive. All copies. And you. He looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Raw and present. They'll kill him if I don't deliver both by midnight. The room tilted. Dante. I need to think. He stood, paced to the window. There has to be a way. Some angle they haven't anticipated. Give them the drive. He turned. What? Give them what they want. The drive, the files, all of it. I stood. Your cousin's life is worth more than bringing down corrupt judges. And your life? Because they'll kill you the moment they have what they need. Then we make copies. Hide them. Set up a dead man's switch that releases everything if something happens to me. I moved closer. But we don't let a kid die because we wanted revenge. He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. You'd give up everything you've worked for? To save someone's family? Yes. I meant it. Absolutely yes. Something shifted in his expression. Not relief. Exactly. Something deeper. They'll never stop hunting you. I know. You'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. I know that too. I touched his arm. But I can live with that. I can't live with knowing we let a child die. He covered my hand with his. There might be another way. I'm listening. What came next happened fast. Dante made calls. To people he trusted. People who owed him favors. People who operated in the same shadows as the Costellos. He assembled a team in 4 hours. 6 men. All of them dangerous. all of them loyal. The plan was insane. Simple and insane. We'd go to the exchange point. We'd bring the drive and me. But we'd have his team positioned around the perimeter, not to start a war, but to extract Marco the moment he was visible. It's a hostage swap, Dante explained. But we take our hostage before they take theirs. And if it goes wrong, then people die. Possibly including us. He checked his gun, chambered around. Last chance to back out. No. I accepted the bulletproof vest he handed me. We're doing this. The exchange point was an abandoned warehouse near the docks. All exposed concrete and rusted metal, perfect sightlines for shooters. We arrived at 11:45 p.m. Dante's team was already in position, invisible in the shadows. 2 black SUVs sat in the center of the space, headlights creating a pool of harsh white light. "Stay behind me," Dante said, "no matter what happens." We walked into the light. The SUV doors opened. 4 men emerged, all armed. Then a 5th figure. A kid, maybe 16, with Dante's dark hair and his mother's eyes. Marco. He was trying to look brave and failing. Finally, Luca Costello himself stepped out. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. "Dante." His voice carried easily across the empty space. "Brought the lawyer. Good boy." "Let the kid go," Dante said. "Then we'll talk." "Talk?" Luca laughed. "I think you misunderstand the situation. You give me the drive, you give me her. And maybe, I don't put a bullet in your cousin's head right now." Beside him, one of his men pressed a gun to Marco's temple. Dante's hand tightened on his weapon, but he didn't raise it. "The drive's encrypted. Kill me, and you'll never access it. Then you'll decrypt it, while we have a conversation with Miss Marchetti here, about who else she's told." I stepped forward before Dante could stop me. "Nobody. I didn't tell anyone. The files are on that drive, and nowhere else. Let the kid go, and I'll tell you everything you want to know." Lucas studied me. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both." He gestured. "Bring her here. Let's see what she knows." I started walking. Behind me, Dante grabbed my wrist. "Don't," he said quietly. "Elena, don't. It's okay." I met his eyes, tried to communicate everything I couldn't say aloud. "Trust me. Trust your team. Trust that we planned for this." "I know what I'm doing." I pulled free, walked toward Luca Costello like I was walking toward my execution. Maybe I was. I got within 10 feet. Luca's men moved to flank me. That's when Dante's team opened fire. Not at the Costellos, at the vehicles. Tires exploded, headlights shattered. The pool of light collapsed into strobing chaos. In the confusion, Dante moved. Faster than I'd ever seen him move. He reached Marco, cut his zip tie restraints, shoved him toward the shadows where his team waited. I dropped flat as bullets started flying for real. The concrete was cold against my cheek, and I could smell gunpowder and oil and terror. Someone grabbed me, one of Costello's men hauling me upright. I drove my elbow back into his ribs, twisted free, ran. More gunfire, shouting. The bright flash of muzzle flares in darkness. Then Dante was there, pulling me behind a concrete pillar, his body shielding mine as bullets sparked off stone. "Marco," I gasped. "Safe, out." His breathing was ragged. "But we need to move. Now." He pulled me through the warehouse, navigating by some instinct I didn't possess. Behind us, the firefight continued, disciplined bursts of gunfire, commands shouted in the dark. We emerged into the night air. Dante's car waited, engine running, one of his team at the wheel. "Go!" Dante shoved me into the back seat, dove in beside me. The car peeled out, tires shrieking. I twisted to look back. Saw figures in the warehouse entrance. Saw muzzle flashes like angry stars. "Are they following?" I asked. Probably. Dante pulled out his phone. Team 2, we're mobile. Execute Phase 3. Whatever that meant, I didn't ask. I was too busy trying to breathe, to process that we'd just survived. That Marco had survived. He's really safe? I asked. Your cousin? Dante showed me his phone. A text from an unknown number. Package secure. Heading to backup location. He's safe. Dante slumped back against the seat, and for the first time, I saw the blood. His jacket was torn, and underneath, his shirt was soaked red along his left side. You're hit. It's nothing. Dante. It's nothing. He pressed his hand against the wound, applying pressure. Graze. I'll deal with it when we're clear. The driver, I didn't know his name, spoke up. Safe house 3, 20 minutes. Make it 15, Dante said. We drove through empty streets, running red lights, taking corners too fast. I kept pressure on Dante's wound despite his protests, my hands slick with his blood. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry. This was my fault. No. He covered my hands with his. You were willing to trade yourself for Marco. That's... He stopped. Restarted. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do. It was stupid. It was both. He almost smiled. Just like you said. We reached the safe house, not the brownstone, somewhere else. The driver helped us inside, disappeared into the night. Dante sank onto a couch, and I finally got a good look at the wound. He was right. It was a graze. Painful, bloody, but not life-threatening. I cleaned it, bandaged it, made him take painkillers he didn't want. We need to release the files, I said. All of them. Tonight. They know we have them, and they know we won't stop. So we end this. Agreed. He pulled out his laptop with his good hand. Send them to every news outlet, every federal agency. Flood the system. I helped him type one-handed. Within an hour, the entire archive was out there. Tens of thousands of documents. Irrefutable evidence. The kind that couldn't be buried or explained away. We sat in silence, watching the upload bar complete. It's done, Dante said quietly. It's done, I echoed. He looked at me, and something in his expression made my breath catch. Thank you. For tonight. For Marco. For everything. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. He reached for my hand, bloody and still shaking. You could have run. Could have saved yourself. Instead, you walked into gunfire for my family. He's a kid. He's my responsibility, and you made him yours too. His thumb traced my knuckles. That's not strategy, that's... He didn't finish. Didn't need to. I leaned forward. He met me halfway. The kiss was careful, mindful of his injury, mindful of everything we'd survived. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. This is a terrible idea, he murmured. The worst, I agreed. We're both covered in blood and trauma. Definitely not ideal. And tomorrow, when those files hit, we'll be the most wanted people in the city. Probably. He kissed me again, deeper this time. His hand cradled the back of my head, and I tasted copper and coffee, and something that felt dangerously like hope. Outside, sirens began to wail. Not for us. For them. For everyone whose corruption we'd just exposed to sunlight. What happens now? I whispered. Now? Dante pulled back slightly, his eyes dark and impossibly warm. Now we survive. Together. Together. I repeated. And for the first time since that wedding, I believed it might actually be possible. Morning arrived with news coverage so intense I could feel it vibrating through the walls. Dante sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, scrolling through headlines with his good hand. His left side was bandaged beneath a clean shirt, and he moved carefully, mindful of the graze. Judge Whitmore was arrested at 5 a.m. he said without looking up. 3 other judges are in custody. The FBI has warrants for 12 police officers. I poured coffee with shaking hands. What about the Costellos? Luca went aground, but his financial accounts are frozen, his properties are under federal seizure, and… He turned the laptop. Someone leaked information about his protection network. Names, addresses, every cop and judge on his payroll. I stared at the screen. Someone. Meaning you. Meaning someone who had access to files I didn't give the FBI. Yet. He closed the laptop. The Costellos are finished. It'll take months to dismantle completely, but they're done as an organization. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. How many people died last night? 2 of Costello's men. None of mine. He met my eyes. You saved Marco. That counts. Does it? Does any of this count when we had to become what they are to fight them? I've always been what they are, Elena. You knew that. His voice was gentle but firm. The difference is, I choose when and why to use violence. They don't. I sat across from him, cradling my coffee. Outside, the city moved through its morning routine, unaware that its infrastructure had just shifted beneath its feet. The FBI wants to talk to you, Dante said. They found your name in the file metadata. They know you're the source. Are they coming here? No. I negotiated a meeting. Neutral ground. Federal protection. Afterward, if you want it. And if I don't? Then you disappear. Properly this time. New identity, new city. I have people who can make it seamless. I thought about that. About walking away from everything. My career, my family, my entire life. About becoming someone else in some anonymous place where nobody knew my name. What would you do? I asked. If you were me. I'd stay. He said it immediately, certainly. I'd face them, testify if needed, use the visibility as protection. He paused. But I'm not you. And I don't pretend our situations are equivalent. Why would you stay? Because running means they win. Not legally. We've already beaten them there. But psychologically, morally, they'd have driven you out, made you live in fear forever. He leaned forward, wincing slightly. You didn't collect those files to run, Elena. You collected them to fight. He was right. I'd spent 2 years building a case because I couldn't stand watching corruption win. Running now would mean abandoning everything that work represented. I want to see my mother, I said. Before I decide. Dante nodded. I'll arrange it. Somewhere safe. Supervised. This afternoon. And after? After I've decided? After… He was quiet for a moment. After we figure out what comes next. For both of us. The way he said it made something in my chest tighten. What do you want to come next? Honestly? He smiled. Real, unguarded. Nothing like the controlled mask I'd become used to. I want to take you to dinner. Somewhere nice. Somewhere we don't have to check sightlines and exits. I want to have conversations that aren't about corruption and survival. I want… He stopped. I want to see if this us is real when we're not running. And if it's not, then at least we'll know. He reached across the table, offered his hand. But I think it is. I took his hand. His palm was warm, slightly rough, and when I squeezed, he squeezed back. Dinner, I said. After all this is over. You promise? I promise. My phone buzzed. The burner Dante had given me. A text from an unknown number. FBI ready when you are. Car will pick you up at 1400. That's them, Dante said, reading over my shoulder. You don't have to go alone. I can be there. In another room, but there. No. I stood. This part, I do myself. Elena. I appreciate everything you've done, everything you've risked. I touched his cheek, felt stubble and warmth. But I started this fight alone. I need to finish that part alone too. He caught my hand, pressed a kiss to my palm. Okay, but call when you're done. And if you need me. I know. You'll come. I believed it absolutely. At 2 p.m., a black sedan arrived. Standard federal vehicle, 2 agents in suits. I got in the back, and we drove to a building downtown. Nondescript, government issue, the kind of place where important testimony happened. They led me to a conference room. 3 agents waited. 2 men, 1 woman. They introduced themselves. Names I forgot immediately. Miss Marchetti, the woman said, we need you to walk us through everything. How you obtained the files, who you worked with, what you know about Dante Caruso's involvement. I told them most of it. The files, the copying. My plan to bring it to them before the Costellos intervened. I told them about the wedding, about Dante extracting me, about the safe house. I didn't tell them about the warehouse, about Marco, about the parts that would make Dante more than a witness, would make him a participant. Mr. Caruso has been helpful, I said carefully. He provided protection when I needed it. That's all. They asked more questions. Hours of questions. By the time they finished, evening had arrived, painting the windows gold. We'll need you to testify, one of the agents said. Multiple grand juries, possibly trials. I know. We can offer protection, safe house, marshals, new identity if necessary. I don't want new identity. I said it firmly. I want my life back. My name. My career. That may not be safe. I don't care. I stood. I didn't do this to hide. I did it to make things right. If that means living with risk, I'll live with risk. The female agent studied me. You're sure? Completely. She nodded slowly. Then we'll provide security, as much as we can. But Miss Marchetti, these people are dangerous. Even with their organization collapsing, some will want revenge. I understand. They drove me back to Dante's safe house. By the time I arrived, the city was dark, streetlights creating pools of amber in the gloom. Dante was waiting in the living room. He stood when I entered, searching my face. How did it go? They want testimony, protection, the usual. I sank onto the couch. I told them I'm staying, not running. Good. He sat beside me, careful of his injury. That's the right choice. Is it, or is it just the stubborn one? With you, I'm not sure there's a difference. He almost smiled. What did you tell them? About me? That you protected me, helped me. Nothing about the warehouse. Nothing they didn't already suspect. I looked at him. I'm not going to destroy you to save myself. You might have to eventually, if they push. Then we'll deal with it then. I leaned against him, felt his arm come around my shoulders. Right now, I just want to breathe. We sat in silence for a while. His heartbeat was steady beneath my ear, and I let it anchor me. Dante? Thank you. For everything. For seeing me at that wedding. For pulling me out. For this. I gestured vaguely, encompassing the past weeks. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. I pulled back to look at him. You could have let them take me. Could have used me as a pawn. Instead, I struggled for words. Instead, you treated me like a person. Like someone worth protecting. That's not nothing. You are worth protecting. He touched my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. You're brave and stubborn and principled in ways that make you dangerous to people like the Costellos. Of course you're worth protecting. Even if it puts you at risk. Especially then. I kissed him, slow, deliberate, grateful. When we broke apart, he was smiling. What? I asked. You. This. The fact that we survived. He kissed my forehead. It's a miracle we're still breathing. It's more than that, I said. It's a choice. We chose to fight. chose to trust, chose each other. Best choice I ever made, he murmured. We stayed there on the couch, wrapped around each other, while outside the world continued its complicated dance of justice and chaos. Tomorrow I'd start rebuilding, testifying, facing the people I'd exposed. But tonight, I had this: safety, warmth, someone who'd stood between me and violence without hesitation. It was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 6 months later, I walked into my new office and smiled. It wasn't much. Small firm, 3rd floor, view of a parking lot. But it was mine. Marchetti Legal Services, specializing in whistleblower protection and corruption cases. The phone had been ringing steadily since I'd hung out my shingle 2 weeks ago. Judge Whitmore was serving 12 years. Luca Costello was awaiting trial on 17 counts. The organization he'd built was rubble, and I'd testified at 4 grand juries to make sure it stayed that way. I was still getting death threats, still had federal agents checking in weekly, still looked over my shoulder more than I'd like. But I was here, alive, working, fighting. My phone buzzed. A text from Dante. Dinner tonight? That place you mentioned? I smiled. Typed back, 7 p.m. Don't be late. Never. We'd been doing this dance for months now, careful dates between my testimony schedule and his work. Legitimate work now, mostly. He was dismantling his father's empire piece by piece, transitioning what could be salvaged into legal enterprises. It was slow, painful. He still carried a gun everywhere, but he was trying. That evening, I met him at the restaurant. Small Italian place, corner booth, string lights overhead. He stood when I arrived, kissed my cheek, pulled out my chair. Counselor, he said, a hint of teasing in his tone. You look exhausted. 3 depositions today, all of them hostile. I collapsed into the chair. You look good though, healed. He'd finally ditched the careful movements. The graze had healed cleanly, leaving only a thin scar he rarely mentioned. Clean living, he deadpanned. Liar. He smiled. How was your day? Really, I told him. About the hostile lawyers, about the client who'd broken down crying because she'd finally felt heard, about the small victories that kept me going. He listened the way he always did, completely present, asking questions that showed he understood the complexity. And you? I asked finally. How's the transition going? Slower than I'd like, faster than I expected. He swirled wine in his glass. Turns out dismantling organized crime from the inside is complicated. Who knew? I said dryly. There's something I need to tell you. His expression shifted, became serious. The FBI approached me last week. They want me to consult, help them understand how organizations like my father's operate. Be an advisor. I set down my fork. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. Talk to you first. He met my eyes. It would mean exposure, testimony, putting everything I know on record, but it would also mean immunity for certain things, and legitimacy. Real legitimacy. Do you want to do it? I don't know. He was quiet for a moment. I spent my entire life in shadows, operating outside systems I didn't trust. The idea of working within them, it's foreign. But not impossible. No, not impossible. He reached across the table, took my hand. What do you think? I chose my words carefully. I think you spent months trying to become something different. This could be part of that. Or it could drag you back into the world you're trying to leave. Very diplomatic. I'm a lawyer. I squeezed his hand. But honestly, I think you'd be good at it. You understand these organizations. You see patterns others miss. And I paused. And I think you want to do something good, even if you don't say it. Is that what I want? He said it lightly, but I heard the question underneath. I think so. I think part of you has always wanted to be more than what you were born into. I leaned forward. And I think you're brave enough to try. He was quiet, processing. Then, if I do this, if I become that person, it changes things. Between us. How? I stop being the person who pulled you out of danger. Stop being your protector. Become something else. Good, I said firmly. I don't need a protector, Dante. I never did. I needed a partner. An equal. Someone who trusts me to be strong enough to handle my own battles. You are strong enough. I know. Do you? He smiled. Real, warm, the kind that transformed his face. Yes. You terrify me, actually. Excellent. I picked up my wine glass. Then tell the FBI yes. Become their consultant. Build something legitimate. And let's see what we can be when we're not running from violence. Just like that? Just like that. He lifted his glass, clinked it against mine. To new beginnings. To finishing what we started. We drank, ate, talked about small things. My new office, his meeting with federal prosecutors, the chess game we'd been playing for months that neither of us could win. Later, walking to my car, he took my hand. Elena? Thank you. For that wedding, for the drive, for everything after. I stopped walking, turned to face him beneath a streetlight. You're thanking me for almost getting us killed? I'm thanking you for showing me that not everyone is corrupt, that some people still fight for what's right, even when it costs them everything. He touched my face. You could have run, could have taken a new identity, and disappeared. Instead, you stayed, testified, built something new. We built something new, I corrected. Both of us. Together. Together, I agreed. He kissed me there under the streetlight, and for once I didn't check the shadows. Didn't calculate exit routes. Just let myself exist in this moment with this man who'd seen me at my worst and stayed anyway. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I love you, he said quietly, in case that wasn't clear. My heart stopped. Restarted. It wasn't, but I'm glad you said it. And I love you too. Even though you're occasionally terrifying and you have truly terrible ideas about safety protocols. He laughed. A real, full laugh that made people passing on the street smile. Fair assessment. We stood there a moment longer. Then I pulled back, smiled. Come on, let's go home. Which one, yours or mine? Does it matter? Not really, no. We walked to the parking lot hand in hand. Around us, the city moved through its endless cycle. Crime and justice, corruption and resistance, people trying to build something better from broken pieces. We were part of that now. Not heroes, not villains. Just two people who'd chosen to fight instead of run, who'd chosen each other despite the danger. And somehow, impossibly, we'd survived. More than survived. We'd built something real. As I drove home, Dante following in his car, always careful, always watching, I thought about that wedding. About sitting alone, counting exit routes, convinced isolation was the price of integrity. I'd been wrong. Sometimes the price of integrity was risk. Partnership. Trust. She had no date. No friends at the wedding. Then the Mafia boss sat beside her. She had no date. No friends at the wedding. Then the Mafia boss sat beside her. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, it led somewhere better than you'd ever imagined. I pulled into my building's parking garage. Dante parked beside me. We rode the elevator together, and when we reached my floor, he didn't ask if he could stay. He just followed me inside, locked the door behind us, pulled me close. Whatever happens next, he murmured, we face it together. Together, I whispered back. And for the first time in years, maybe ever, I believed in happy endings. Not perfect ones, but real ones. the kind you earned by surviving.